Republican nominee for sheriff here in Loudoun County. I want to first thank everybody for coming today. I appreciate the support I've been receiving from the Republican Party, Loudoun's constitutional officers, our other Republican leaders and office holders, and the support of my family, friends, and Loudoun County members who care about safety and crimes in this community as well as integrity. You're going to hear from a few county leaders today, after which the floor will be open to any questions the press might have. I'm now going to turn it over to Mark Sell, our chairman of the Loudoun County Republican Committee. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Mark Sell, the chairman of the Loudoun County Republican Committee. The scowl you see on the face of Mr. Speakman is clearly the taste of sour grapes. Our party has spoken and chosen the best candidate, and it wasn't close. A long, fair, and open campaign revealed the qualifications and character of the candidates. It demonstrated that Mike Chapman has the training, experience, and leadership to lead Loudoun's sheriff's office in the 21st century. He has over 30 years of law enforcement experience at the local, national, and international level. He's managed multi-million-dollar budgets in multiple field offices, and he has a thoughtful plan to address our primary public safety issues: drugs, illegal immigration, and gangs. The campaign and subsequent events have also revealed quite a bit about the character and qualifications for higher office of Mr. Speakman. He shocked everyone present at the convention with his refusal to accept defeat graciously, and has since broken his word by repudiating the pledge he signed to support the GOP nominee. More recently, Mr. Speakman has violated the privacy of every LCRC member by retaining and using the membership list the committee provided as part of the nominating process to advance his misbegotten independent campaign, and now used our legitimate request to respect the privacy of LCRC members as an excuse to engage in baseless and false attacks on our nominee. Mr. Speakman's graceless and devious conduct tell us everything we need to know about what we could expect of him should he be elected sheriff. His actions give us all the more reason to reiterate our call on Republicans to reject Mr. Speakman's efforts to reverse the results of our convention, and to do everything possible to ensure the victory of our Republican nominee and the best man for the job, Mike Chapman. And now I'd like to introduce Loudoun County's treasurer, Mr. Roger Zern, the longest-serving local elected official and senior statesman of the Republican Party.
Let me start out by saying that the intent all along has been to run a positive campaign, one that was free of distortion, one that would be campaigning on Mike's record with the DEA, with his Howard County law enforcement background. But I think what we've seen is an attack unprecedented in Loudoun County history on somebody's credibility, namely Mike Chapman. And the worst part about it is it's totally false. But it does call into question the very person who's making these attacks, Mr. Speaker. Now, I've had the opportunity, along with several others, to go back and look at Mr. Speakman's record. Here's what I've discovered. Mr. Speakman talks about his law enforcement career here in Leesburg, as the town of top. Well, he served 7 years in the town of Leesburg. Questions need to be asked. Why did he never rise above the rank of street patrol at a time when Leesburg's offices were growing and there were plenty of advancement opportunities? Why did he suddenly resign from the force, given the nature that is qualifying for retirement, advancement potential, and at that time he had no immediate job offers whatsoever? Could his actions immediately preceding the resignation have something to do with this? I refer to a court file in Fairfax that's accessible to anybody. It's a public document, and during a particular case, it's learned that Ron Speakman assaulted another gentleman in a bar and was in fact suspended from the Leesburg Police Department for 4 months. Continuing on, looking at Mr. Speakman's background in regards to where did he move on to from there. He moved on to a mortgage company. He founded a mortgage company. And what did he do? He specialized in prime, subprime loans, as well as no-interest loans. Very similar to what we saw with the countrywide mortgage fiasco. In fact, I would submit that in a lot of ways, I think many of you are aware of Angelo Mazzilli, who headed up Countrywide Mortgage and brought Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae down to their knees. $400 billion needed to be bailed out as a result of mainly Mr. Mazzilli. Well, I would submit to you that Mr. Speakman's company was, in fact, engaged in exactly the same type of things. And for Loudoun County taxpayers, the foreclosures that we experienced in Sterling, in Ashburn, where property values decreased substantially, are a direct result of Ron Speakman's actions and those of his companies. So when you're seeing your properties devalued, when you're seeing grass growing 3 feet high in yards, thank Mr. Speakman and his company for all those fine results. Finally, in regards to Ron Speakman that's running for sheriff, I think the court records tell a very vivid tale. Mr. Speakman is an adulterer. He received a protective order that kept him from a young lady, and further was shot. Yes, shot by a lover. These are not qualifications for a Loudoun County sheriff. Not close, nowhere near, unprecedented. What does this gentleman bring to the table? Money. Lots and lots of money. We're seeing it expended at an unprecedented rate. We've got a sheriff who's a part-time sheriff with a full-time gig doing beverage drinks. We only have one candidate that's got the background, the integrity, and the know-how that we need so desperately here in Loudoun County. That, I would submit to you, is Mike Chapman. Yeah. What I'd like to do is present our clerk of the court, Gary Clemens.
Good afternoon. It's truly an honor to be here today because I can tell you without reservation, I support this gentleman as sheriff of Loudoun County, and I'm pleased to be one of his key supporters in this very vital campaign. Folks, there's a lot of campaigns this year, but in my humble opinion, the most important race that we have this November is the sheriff's race. I'd like to tell you on a personal note a little bit later why I think it's so important, but first I want to substantiate what Mark, Sell, and Roger Zerna said about this highly qualified individual. If you'll bear with me, just let me list a few things that demonstrate Mike Chapman's ability to serve and keep our families safe here in Loudoun County. There are important things that are going on in Loudoun County with drug activity, gang activity, property crime, juvenile delinquency, and I can assure you that Mike Chapman has the experience and the background to address these vital issues in our communities. As a parent and a family person, Mike understands firsthand the importance of having a good, strong public safety program in our wonderful county. Mike has management and executive level leadership that goes back 30 years, and we need an executive leader and executive manager in Loudoun County Sheriff's Office. The Loudoun County Sheriff's Office is equivalent to a corporation, and I think we all understand that we have corporate entities out there. We need to have the best CEO and best corporate managers we can possibly have. Mike Chapman is a CEO who will serve very well in the Sheriff's Office. Mike has conducted, led, and directed complex investigations. And folks, if you read the papers, Loudoun County has grown. It's very complicated, very complex criminal investigations today. Mike has a very diverse background at the federal level, local level, international, and also as a consultant to better serve our community. Let's talk about community. Mike wants to make our community safe. He backs up his commitment to community because he's been plugged in by volunteering his time on the Advisory Commission on Youth. He's a member. He's a member of the Bull Run Alcohol Safety Action Program, and he has been very active with the Loudoun Crime Commission for many years. So his investment in the community is not just as a professional, but as a citizen volunteer in many, many ways. Let me just share something with you on a personal note. The Clemens family goes back to the 1930s in this county. I've lived here my whole life, and I hope that my sons, when they finish their academic pursuits, will come back and raise their families here. This is why I think this race is so important, because I want a future law enforcement program that's going to meet the needs not only for today, but for my children and my grandchildren and all of your children and grandchildren into the future. And I can assure you, in analyzing this race, because folks, I want to tell you something, when it comes to constitutional office, it's like a county-wide job interview. You've got to be able to demonstrate you have a resume of qualifications, experience, and education to get this job. Mike Chapman is being interviewed by all the voters of Loudoun County, and I'm one of those voters. I have scrutinized the resumes of the candidates, and I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that this is the best candidate to be our sheriff in Loudoun County. Now I'd like to also recognize another distinguished constitutional officer, our Commissioner of Revenue, Bob Works.
Thank you, Greg. I want to thank you all for coming out this afternoon. Loudoun County is not the place for a part-time sheriff or someone who doesn't reside in the county. I sincerely hope that the press does the proper research relative to residency of one of our candidates and the other extracurricular activities of the other candidate. Mike has an extensive law enforcement career, and he has served in progressively responsible positions for decades. He is the most eminently qualified candidate for sheriff, and I'm glad that he's on the Republican team. Let me tell you a little bit about his law enforcement experience. It began at the local level, where he served in local law enforcement and community policing. He later served on a SWAT team, and then he was a detective making sure that criminals were held accountable for their actions. He then served in federal law enforcement, here and in the States and abroad. He targeted drug traffickers who distribute drugs to children and ruin the lives of so many. Currently, he's a consultant in the private sector, and his business acumen will help him in running an organization that has 600 and some employees in it. His current activities involve focusing on bringing multiple law enforcement efforts together to gain efficiencies and maximize results. His knowledge and experience will assist him in utilizing technology to create greater efficiencies and the best value in public safety to our citizens. That's one of the reasons that I ran for public office when I first sought the office of Commissioner back in 2003. I saw that the use of technology could improve efficiencies in offices, and Mike's experience in the private sector and his progressively responsible positions in law enforcement, I believe, give him that background that's going to help us here in Loudoun County. He has the ability to implement cutting-edge crime-fighting techniques right here in Loudoun County. You heard our clerk of the circuit court talk about how Loudoun has changed. This isn't little old Loudoun County anymore. Mike has received numerous endorsements from Congressman Wolf. All of Loudoun's constitutional officers, of course, except for the current sheriff. And he's received endorsements from police chiefs, senior FBI executives, a top DEA official, and the Association of Former Federal Narcotics Agents. These endorsements are testimony to Mike's commitment to public safety and a commitment that he will enforce here in Loudoun County as our next sheriff. I hope you will take the opportunity to find out more about him on his website at chapmanforsheriff.com. It's the number 4. I and my other Republican officials and leaders are proud to support qualified, experienced candidates for all offices. Mike Chapman exemplifies what the party looks for in its top leaders. On Election Day, I hope you'll join me and other Loudoners in supporting Mike Chapman for Sheriff of Loudoun County. Thank you all for coming out. And Mike will be available to answer questions.
Talk about the ads that have been appearing in Leesburg today and the Loudoun Times-Mirror questioning your credentials.
Right. Well, I mean, they've been total distortions. We've addressed that. If you had a chance to look at the Loudoun Times-Mirror, I was given the opportunity to do a rebuttal, an op-ed rather piece challenging what those claims were. And in doing that, I made sure I went through my entire career so that there were no mistakes and that everything was there. I also did a piece that we blasted out as a constant contact email, and we made sure that not only did we do that again, but we also attached my credentials, some of the places I've been, some of the awards I received that verify not only what I did, but the level of expertise I brought to those particular offices that I worked at. So I think it's been, you know, we just wanted to make sure we got it out there, we resolved it, and that it's out there. Now, I don't know that anybody else has done anything similar to that, but we have. I mean, my career is up front, and it's out there for anybody to see.
Can anyone expand on the allegations against Ron Speakman that you talked about, being shot by a lover, assaulting another man in a bar?
I would, in that case, I would actually refer you to the case file, unless Roger, you want to address some of that?
I will simply say, go to the Fairfax courts, ask for case number K083540. Everything you want to know is right there.
Any other questions? All right, well, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I appreciate all the support. I want to thank all my supporters here, all the Republican Party members. Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate it.